Hello, hello. Hi, Alvin. Hi, Joe. Everybody saying hi in the chat. Introduce yourselves. Thank you for joining us today. Ray, take it away.
You got it, guys. Thanks. Look at that. We're up to 41 already. We're going to have a great event today, everybody. And thanks for being here. Welcome to our next webinar. It's better than last, I'm sure, because it's going to be great today. How Data Builds Brands, presented by Effective. Effective marketers have more ways than ever to reach their audience and more insights from data with which to do it. Effective has a Data Builds Brands white paper. We'll talk about that. You can also find that at effectivetv.com/AAF. So as you join from Stephanie, hi Stephanie. Wow, that's great. All the way from Amarillo. We have enough 40 people here today. This is going to be a great, great time for everyone. We have so much to talk about, and I'm going to quickly get to an introduction for Kay. Kay Krennick is our AAF chairman and has been an active member with the Ad Federation for many, many years now. She's a principal at Kay Krennick Creative and was part of the team at BBDO Houston, Bates Southwest, and WAIR. Blessed with a great insight on how to take an ad club to the top even during a pandemic. It's all about adapting, and Kay does it well. Here is Kay Krennick.
Well, thank you, Ray. That's kind of overwhelming, but I do have just a few club things I'd like to go over before we get started with our topic. The first is what you are seeing right now, which is our auction, our Bid 2020 Goodbye auction, which is our fundraiser to help support our educational initiatives and scholarships. We have a lot of fun things on this auction. This is just a few. Who doesn't want Whataburger for a year in that gift basket, right? I know I do, especially right now. I'm kind of hungry, but we have some great items, and most of you who are on our mailing list probably got an email early this morning about the auction with a link to it, but you can also get to it from our website, af-houston.net. So we look forward to seeing it. It goes through October 1st, and there's a lot of great things. There's a lot of gift cards. I know we all need to get out on the town and do a few things. So we're actually still adding a few more things. So keep shopping, keep looking back, and go ahead and register. And John Del Tado just put the actual link to the website in the chat. So, cool. But nobody leave the webinar to go bid. Oh. I just want to say that. And Ray will cover, we also have a lovely donation from Effective, which we're really excited about. But real quick, I just want to mention to also save the date for October 21st, which will be our October webinar. And we have one of our own speaking to us, which is a woman named Margot Aaron, who is a native Houstonian, who is a marketer in the greater New York City area. And she's going to be the topic is, why is it easy to market your clients, but not yourself? And if we all know that that's a truism for any of us in the industry. So this is going to be a great webinar. Just save the date, October 21st. You know, you'll be getting emails from us. Also like to mention that our public service team has an application available for all nonprofits that might be interested in or in need of a fully integrated marketing campaign. And you can apply or send that to a friend that's involved in a nonprofit, and that's also on our website. And the deadline for applications is September 18th. And lastly, our student conference is up and running. It's also on the website, and it'll be November 5th through the 7th. It will be virtual, but if you know any advertising students who are, it will be virtual, but it'll be a very fun and interesting way to approach this, and let us possibly reach out to more students. So if you know any students in communications, send them that way. But the largest thing I wanted to talk about was the auction, and then also just to say thanks to everybody that participated in our survey in June. And our first number one thing that people asked for in our programmings was for AAF Houston to keep them up to date on technologies that affect our business. And today's webinar is going to do that hands down. And so I'm very excited. I know you're here to hear what they have to say, not what I have to say. So I'll turn it back over to Ray. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. We are so succinct and well run, and such a well-oiled machine we are, aren't we? Today's How Data Builds Brands webinar is brought to you by Effective. And let's talk more about that. In today's new television world, marketers have more ways than ever to reach their audience, more insights from data with which to do it. Research has shown that building awareness with high-tech, high-reach campaign strategies is still critical for all advertisers to stay top of mind. And I'm sure we'll talk about the white paper, Data Builds Brands, as we work through this with this webcast. Also, this is a really cool deal with Creative Audit. There is Effective is donated to the auction, a creative audit by Mnemonic. It leverages our unique insights, data, access, experience, creative talent to offer thorough and effective analysis of how we're connecting with the audience. They access strengths and opportunities and offer strategic solutions and suggestions and actionable improvements. And we invite you after the webinar to go bid on that. That is a great value with a starting bid of only $600. And I'm sure you're going to step right up and grab that quickly and drive that bid way up. Today's presentation is going to be fun. As I said, it's how data builds brands. One thing before we go to that, I want to talk about our podcast. A couple of things about the podcast. We did a podcast with the folks at Effective, and we're releasing that on the 18th. So go to your favorite podcast platform, grab that podcast. It'll be releasing at 7 o'clock in the morning on the 18th. Also, this coming weekend, we begin to feature them on the radio program with the podcast. It'll be on the radio show for iHeartMedia. It's KPRC 950. The Addy Award-winning podcast is called Ad Speaks Houston. We invite you to become a part of that. Amy Noling is a seasoned sales marketer who has worked in advertising, sales, and marketing for 10 years. She's worked at premier networks like ESPN, Travel Channel in New York City before coming to Houston in 2012, where she worked at the Houston Chronicle before returning to television in her current role at Effective. A diehard University of Michigan fan, go blue, yeah, and spent most of quarantine practicing the piano, do, re, mi, right? And trying to bake. What have you burned thus far, Amy? Anything baking?
Everything.
Everything. Okay, well, that's good. Be consistent. I like that. We'll hear from Amy here in just a moment. Saban Zaidi is the creative manager for Mnemonic, Effective, award-winning creative agency. It's a creative director and filmmaker who has spent the past couple of decades directing and producing critically acclaimed and award-winning films, commercials, broadcast television shows, documentaries, digital content, and helping shape the identity of national and local brands. His favorite thing in the whole wide world is spending time with his daughters and sneaking chocolate chip cookies that he really shouldn't be eating. Frankly, Saban, everyone should be eating chocolate chip cookies, whether you should or not. So without any further delay, let's get into our program today. Thanks again, up to 51 participants. By the way, if you have any questions, submit them. You see right at the bottom, it says Q&A. That's where you submit your questions, because after this is done, we'll be taking your questions. So let's go for it, guys.
Thank you so much, Ray and Kay and Valentina, and hi to everyone that's attending today. We're super excited to be with you. I am going to be sharing my screen, so let's all do the no whammies, and make sure that we can hear our audio. And I think we'll be good to go. Perfect. So now the million-dollar question, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Perfect. So we are Effective, and it's a super exciting day for us to be here with you to talk about what we do, which is combining the targeting and measurement of digital and the reach and impact of TV. And reach is going to be something that I say a lot. It's kind of the magic word today, which is reach. And if you did not know us before, we were formerly Comcast Spotlight. We've rebranded now to Effective. So if that's news to you, awesome. You were here, you are right on time, and we're gonna jump right into it. So just an agenda, we always believe in agendas. We're gonna talk about maximizing the awareness and reach for your business, making an impact with the right creative, and then just looking ahead on how we can hopefully partner and help you achieve your goals this year and beyond. So what is it that we do? And in summary, we help you find your audience on multiple screens. Comcast and Comcast viewership data is what we're using, and we're targeting that along with third-party data. And third-party data, just so we're talking clear, are things like Polk and things like Experian. And that helps us to assess how people and how audiences are watching TV locally. So whether it's cable, broadcast, premium networks, live TV, video on demand, it's no problem for us. We can find your audience. And we've also got specific geographic targeting, which in a huge city like Houston is super important. We want to make sure that not only are we getting that right audience, but we're getting them where they are, physically where they are. But again, that sweet spot in what makes your campaign really come to life is in that data and insights that you can only get with us here at Effective. So the methodology that we use is that we find your audience. That's the most important thing. We use that data we find them on whatever screens they're viewing their content on. That can be a phone, that could be an iPad, that could be a television screen. It's easy breezy for us to be able to find your audience, right? And then we're gonna target them in a one-to-one fashion wherever we can. And the targeting, again, it takes your campaign, it takes your message, and it's going to them. Another thing that we bring to the table and our commitment to our partners is that we're going to report on that performance. It's important that we don't just set it and forget it, but that we improve on our campaigns. We're having constant dialogue with our clients to ensure that we're getting the results that we want. And then we come back and we prove that to you. We prove how we've been able to have an impact on your business, and we've proven how we've been able to make this campaign come to life and truly reach that target audience that we're going for. So let's start with why reach matters to clients and to advertisers. And at its most basic, reach allows advertisers to get in front of more potential customers, right? The more potential customers we have, the greater the opportunity that they will consider our brand and become likely customers. And then we get them into that green spot, right? Where we're able to influence and hopefully impact them into making purchases. So that's the great part about reach. And when we're thinking about reach and awareness and getting a message in front of lots of potential advertisers, that's where branding becomes really important. Because with branding and with reach and being able to impact more people with getting your message out there, it's going to be higher share of voice, which is very, very important. And with that reach, we're able to break through the clutter, right? And help your business stand out, help your message stand out, have people align your campaign with the goals that we have in mind. So the reach, that big purple top of the funnel, is super, super important when we're thinking about branding and that long-term equity we want to build as partners. Television is still the #1 medium. We want to make a great reach. When we think about it, 85% of adults are watching TV on a weekly basis. And 4+ hours of TV that they're watching is a great number for us. And that's something to think about and hold on to. Because when we think about a full 360 campaign, there's so many elements that go into it, right? The words that we want to use, the colors that you're using in your campaign, so much, but television is still the #1 way that we build brand awareness. And talking about the here and now, where 2020 has been obviously a different kind of year. That's probably the easiest way to say that. And we know that people are spending even more time in their homes and even more time with screens. And with this situation that we find ourselves in right now, COVID has really catapulted our streaming, right? If you are quarantining in your safety bubble with one or more people, odds are that one screen has got one piece of content going, a phone has got something else going, an iPad or other tablet has got some other stuff happening. And so not only can we get to the TV element, which helps us get a great amount of reach, but that TV can be going anywhere, right? We can watch TV on multiple devices. So today, knowing where we're at and that streaming is a huge part of how we're connecting our efforts to their target audiences, it's just super important for us to remember that, you know, again, TV is the #1. Sorry about that. I had a call pop in, if anybody saw that. TV is still a great opportunity for us to reach that big audience. You can't say next slide, please, when you're the one driving, right? So there's a lot of ways to build the brand awareness. And again, the top of that funnel that I talked about, which is where reach is still the number one place that we want to be. But with data, it's also important to know that we can't ignore the top of the funnel and go straight to intent, which I know is super, super important, right? It's the sweet spot. It's what we're in it for. It's to convert those potential customers into actual customers. But with the influx of data and targeting and metrics and ROI, there's been a shift, and that shift in focusing just on intent is something to just be mindful of as we talk through elements today. Of course, as your partners here at Effective, our goal is to help you get into that intent. But some key things to just also be aware of and make sure that we are mindful of is, let's not go too far down into the funnel and forget about the power of branding. And on this slide here, there's just some quotes, and the one that caught my eye probably is the one that you might be looking at, which is Adidas, right? That's a brand we all know and recognize. And the Adidas quote is probably the most striking. And I'll read it to you. Adidas is on a journey to shift from marketing efficiency to marketing effectiveness. Admitting a focus on ROI led it to overinvest in digital and performance marketing at the expense of brand building. I'm gonna pause on that for a second. And maybe as you're thinking about your campaigns, whether you are with an agency, whether you're a client, whether you're in any position here in this media landscape, but at the expense of brand building. So Adidas, which is a major brand, had to learn the hard way, right? That they went too far over investing in digital. And digital, we know when you're reading your emails on your phone, or you're on an app, you're on your social media, and you get the targeting ad, right? Like buy this sale, this, that. And sure, that's one way to get people into the purchase, right? That's one way to get them into that lower funnel. But the IPA, which that slide that I just showed with the Adidas quote, hosted this conference and talked about it. And what happened when we get to brand building over 10 years of measuring this, and seeing that brands have actually declined and their campaigns have not performed to the success that they originally hoped and intended, because it came at the expense of branding and it came at the expense of reach. So this definition, and I'll read it to you, of brand effect, a measure across a basket of 7 brand metrics, including awareness, differentiation, image, and argument indicator of mental availability. I like that. And hence a leading indicator of growth. So in order to grow, people need to know your brand, and customers need to be able to have a positive association with your brand. Your brand needs to be able to differentiate you from the clutter. So as we're talking more about data and branding, and obviously the impact of your creative, which is a key ingredient in how we can help build your brand, it's knowing that all of those elements have to play together, right? All of those things, like the television, your digital, the look and feel of your campaign, it all has to work together. Some of the big brands, and I love this slide, and what's interesting about some of these direct-to-consumer companies, which you see and know and recognize here, the Pelotons of the world and Warby Parkers of the world, those are brands that had success just going straight to consumers, right? By now, everybody has probably heard about Peloton. If you didn't know about them before, maybe it was word of mouth, maybe you saw it on your Instagram, but they've also had to come around to TV advertising. And you can see the increase in TV advertising just for Peloton. They started off spending $4.6 million in 2015 and have increased to $92.5 million as of last year. That's a huge jump. And what that tells us is that these brands have skyrocketed, and their measure of success, their overall reach, increased once they added television to their campaign. So again, growth and success is directly tied to all of these elements working together, and TV and advertising and television is an ingredient that even the Warby Parkers of the world and the Pelotons of the world had to add in order to maximize their reach in this new world of TV, where we're trying to reach people wherever they are and wherever they're consuming video. And that's what we bring to the table as your partner here at Effective. So this is just a slide that goes over, again, kind of that full funnel on what we're talking about here, which is that more time spent with ads when aired on TV and digital compared to digital alone. Look at that increase there. It's going to get more visual attention when you're adding television into your campaign. People are going to have better recall when they are seeing and experiencing your campaign. I'm pointing to my television over there in the corner, on TV, as well as when they're on digital. So I'm going to now turn it over to my good friend over at Mnemonic, Saban, to tell us a little bit more about how your campaign and the impact of your creative fits into this whole funnel that we're talking about.
Thank you, Amy. I want to echo what Amy said and thank Kay, Joni, Valentina, Ray, the whole team. It's exciting to be here and to speak with all of you. I also want to say I've never felt better about myself than when Ray introduces me. I think everyone should try that once in your life. Thank you for that, sir. And I'm happy to build on what Amy's talking about because I've built a career on taking more talented and charming people and just following them. But I'm here to talk about Mnemonic, right? And how does creative fit into this? Because data is an essential part of our DNA as a company. Creative is sort of at the intersection of data and instinct. It's the crossroads of art and science. So there's a translation that has to happen there. But we do want to base it foundationally on data. And this study really helped exemplify that for us. It's a Nielsen Harvard Business Review study that found that 47% of the efficacy of your messaging campaign depends on your message, right? And that's something we instinctively know, but to see that backed up is really important. So what you're saying matters. You can have the best town crier, but he can't be speaking gibberish. And too often what we saw with partners was, especially in local and tier 2 markets, was because they had to be reactionary, because they had to have short-term planning, sometimes their message wasn't hitting the effectiveness that it needed to. And that's where the idea of Mnemonic came in. How can we give our clients and our agency partners a creative strategy partner that's with them, standing through building their brand over periods and over what their goals are and how they evolve, right? That's why I love the Peloton example that Amy uses. The other thing that was a nice sort of byproduct of this study was seeing how those other pillars from targeting, recency, reach, branding, that impact how well you're communicating your brand, all exist under one roof at Effective. So coming into that equation to work with that whole team and have that support and that planning under one roof became really important. And it became really empowering moving forward. So, and I do get to do that thing Amy couldn't do and say next slide, which is one of my favorite things in presentations ever, because you're never at fault when it doesn't go to the next slide. And what we wanted to do with that knowledge of, we have this data, so then how do we translate this data into our creative approach, was to dig down a little deeper, right? And what we found with that, again, is something you might all instinctively know, or most of you might realize, is that TV really had to be the catalyst of how we built our campaigns. And part of that was measured out by this moment we find ourselves in, right? We have to be able to analyze and react to the current climate in advertising. That's a given. That's why I'm wearing this headset, because I have a 5-year-old starting her kindergarten career virtually a couple of feet over from me, right? That's the reality we're in right now. And in that reality, the data we saw was that live viewership jumped up by 57% on TV, right? So that TV viewership's going up. We're seeing that. And when we couple that with the fact that 60% of consumers are likely to make a purchase after viewing an advertisement on TV, that speaks to the authority of the TV commercial and how it still exists, and how important that is to establish the weight of a brand, especially in local and lower tier markets, right? There's a ubiquity to a national message that gives it that weight. In a local market, you have to create that for a client. So that became really important, but the rest of the data was just as important. Like Amy mentioned, the streaming viewership went up through the roof. Video on demand jumped up by almost 40%. And this is something that the viewership during the pandemic accentuated for us, but is true outside, is how splintered the screens are. People are watching in different ways in the same household. And it became really important for us to then cater almost all of our campaigns to those habits and be able to take that data and identify it for each client. There's a lot of really smart advertisers and agencies out there who recognize this already, right? And when they haven't been smart enough, we're happy to go in and augment. But the example you're seeing on screen, Allison John Interiors, they're smart about that brand already. They've created it in this tactile way that connects with an audience's quality of life. So working with them, it's exciting to be able to go in and then say, okay, now how do we translate this across screens? And that's part of the fun of this, right? We get to be the fun end of it. So if we jump to the next slide, please, Amy, when you have a chance. That's the impetus with which we built out Mnemonic, right? Our core is still creating those commercial campaigns for you. That's messaging, that's building your brand. But the needs go far beyond that for most of our clients. So when it comes to social strategy, social media posts, your SEO, your SEM, building entire websites, long form and short form content, that's really important too, right? We talked about different stages of the funnel. The top of the funnel, they're looking for short form content most times. They want that in a bite size, I want to chew it, but with certain capital projects and stuff, you want an engaged audience to be able to dive down and get to the details of what you're talking about. And that's where long form content or landing pages come in and are really important. And that's really why we wanted to have the agility and scale in Mnemonic, because each client doesn't have one need. And each agency doesn't have one need that we need to creatively unlock. So we want to be able to go in and say, whatever you need from this panel, we can do, and build it out so you're sending out one unified message that then becomes a force multiplier, right? And that's where we built this across. And frankly, it's more fun that way because you want your mailers to look like your TVC and be saying the same thing. It's fun to see that. But I can talk about it as much as I want. It's much better with some real-time examples. And here you'll get to experience how well we work together as a team. Amy, I discovered if you press play rather than using the arrow click on the spots, they work better. So when we go in there, we'll just push play. The first example we want to talk about is our partnership with Papa John's Houston and Briggs Caldwell. It's, again, a really fun partnership because they're innovative in how they think about their brand, and some of it is because they're seeing what they need in the market. But the concept of localizing this national brand became really important, and that's something we're working with them on. And how do we bring that back to their audience without jumping into too many details, because we're very, very careful about our clients' data and we don't want to ever give that away. What we discovered working together was that there's a certain pride to Houston that's very unique. And moving from Chicago, which I'm very proud of as well, you all think about pride in a different way. And that word tactile keeps coming back. It feels like something else in Houston. And we really had to capture that for Papa John's and sort of create a mechanism for them to translate that localness and that being part of the Houston experience. Because every single Papa John's franchise in Houston is locally owned. And we thought that was important. We thought that's something that's going to resonate with the audience. And when this campaign went out, it was great when you're right? I like being right so much more than I like being wrong. And they saw a 20% jump in sales, they led the nation, and this collective effort to push this out became so important. So if you wouldn't mind playing the top one, Amy.
Serve a community for 25 years and you learn some things. We're a strong, hard-working, diverse community, and we love flavor. And no food says Houston better than Kellen's Barbecue. And you know how crazy good it is? You've lined up for it, or maybe you missed out. But now Papa John's is bringing Kellen's to you. You heard me. It doesn't get much better than that, now does it? Kellen's Barbecue Brisket Pizza, only at Papa John's Houston. Just for you, Houston.
Better ingredients.
The best barbecue,
Papa John's Houston.
So it helps to have engaging talent as well, right? But when we're building these brands, and it's a practice that I'd encourage across the board, and we've seen it with other advertisers, which is always really inspiring, is to be honest, right? The idea of honesty in advertising, that may come across as ironic to some, but really dig down into these brands and figure out what it is that you stand for. What are your values? What are the pain points that you can connect with? That's standing in a line for Killins. That's an important thing when we got feedback and when we did our analysis with groups on this commercial. That's something that jumped to them, that sense of this is something we want. It's part of the Houston experience and we want to connect it with this other brand. Really diving in and figuring that out. And it's important, it takes work, but that's the work that you can do with a strategic partnership, right? Where we can be in those foxholes and figure that out. And it helps to have confident, honest partners when you're doing that, right? And building off their instincts. And when you've built this brand, what it allows you to do is then jump in with incentives and in the moment advertising, and then keep building the brand because that recall is going to be there. So when the pandemic hit, Charles, one of my favorite people in Houston at Briggs Coldwell, we got on a call and it was like, it's obvious that delivery is going to be important right now, but we want to build on that. And we want to build on that together with the assets we have that we can do quickly and be, the speed to market's really important. And that's when we came up with the second spot, which is a 15, but you'll notice it keeps the brand alive with the direct call to action. So if you wouldn't mind playing that, Amy.
Papa John's is open and ready to serve. Killen's Barbecue Pulled Pork Pizza. Houston's best barbecue, the freshest local ingredients. Killen's Barbecue Pulled Pork Pizza.
Only at Papa John's Houston. Better ingredients,
The best barbecue,
Papa John's Houston.
So even when you're reacting to a moment as instant as we had to, you're still building your brand, and that's really important. If we jump to the next example, this was two brothers own these two Pet Supplies Plus franchises. And first, just meeting them in discovery and going through, you feel their personality. And that becomes really important for local, right? Is you're not just shopping a product, you're shopping as part of your community. And we really wanted to build that. And we were going in with them where they wanted to define themselves because they've got this big national franchise title, Pet Supplies Plus, which comes with its own impression, and you want to build on that. You don't want to counter it, but you want to expand it into what it means into a community. So the first spot was about them, but they came on to do a campaign. We'll speak to the knock-on spots from there. So if you can play that first spot, please, Amy.
I'm Matt. And I'm Matt's better-looking brother, Brian. Just ignore him. We're your local owners here at Pet Supplies Plus in Clear Lake.
Plus, League City. Pets are our passion.
As your local pet store, we know pets come in all shapes, sizes,
And species.
so we have food, treats, toys, plus other accessories for your four-legged friends.
Plus your no-legged friends.
For big pet store feel,
Plus a local touch.
come visit us at your local Clear Lake.
And League City Pet Supplies Plus.
But going back to what Amy was talking about how you want to be smart with the targeting and the groups you hit. When we were doing the research and data into this, we found everyone has fur babies, right? There's not one exclusive group, and you want to speak to those groups in their own language while still maintaining your brand unity. So we had one spot that hits a slightly older audience and speaks to them about that community and who they're buying from. And then we had a subgroup that we were targeting with the second spot, which comes to you from a slightly different perspective, but keeps the brand intact.
I love all my friends at Pet Supplies Plus. Sup, fishes? So much glorious food. Oh, cookies! Mom does her best at the dog wash, but Holly, she's the bestest groomer in the area. Plus, she gives great hugs. Uh-oh, Los Gatos Locos. Later, felines. Pet Supplies Plus, big pet store feel, plus a local touch in Clear Lake and League City. Best day ever.
So now we're able to target different groups with slightly different cultural connections within the same brand. And I do have to say, I was incredibly too proud of the team when they wrote the line "Sup Fishes." It's one of my favorite things we've ever written. And never gets quite the laugh that I'm hoping for it, but I'm going to put it on a t-shirt somewhere. But what it allowed us to do, just like with Papa John's, is create a brand that then can be translated through the moment. Once we've built that brand and adapted it to different groups, and they saw, they were, again, really good partners who were in discussions throughout, and they saw results right away, right? They saw a 25% lift in business, and we're excited about that, and they're talking about growth, and then suddenly we got hit with the pandemic. So what do? Right away, we're looking at what we're seeing as trends. We're looking at what other advertisers are doing in this space. And that's when we came up with that third spot right away.
I'm Matt, and I'm Matt's better looking brother, Brian. Just ignore him. We're your local owners here at Pet Supplies Plus in Clear Lake.
Plus League City.
Cool. My Pet Supplies Plus order is ready.
Shopping at Pet Supplies Plus just got easier with free curbside pickup plus same-day local delivery.
Order online at PetSuppliesPlus.com and select local pickup or delivery, and we'll send you an email when your order's ready.
It's that easy.
Free curbside pickup plus same-day local delivery at Pet Supplies Plus in Clear Lake and League City.
So we were able to go in with that and separate them from the market with that messaging early. The other thing we found when speaking to people who had pets when we were coming up with this was the two principal major national competition, Amazon and Chewy, had massive backlogs. So even if you were ordering instant, supplies in, people weren't getting the supplies for their pets, and a lot of that was pet food. And it created this vacuum for them to go in and say, we're local, we can get to you the same day. And again, we can't go into the direct data there, but their online sales, which hadn't been their principal point of purchase, went through the roof because they were able to maintain their brand, speak to the moment, and react quickly because they had a strategic partnership, right? And as we, as a market, become more savvy to that and recognizing that there's micro data coming back to you all the time, not just from your campaigns, from other campaigns that you can leverage and learn from and improve your messaging, we're just going to be better at building brands. And that's what it has to go back to, is all of that data has to feed how you're communicating your values. And that's our modus operandi, that's our bone marrow at Mnemonic and Effective, and we're seeing it spread beyond us and throughout the industry. And that's what's really exciting, right? Is when we create a better campaign, someone else is going to make one that's just as good and force us to make one that's better. And we'll lift all boats and elevate markets across the country like this. And that's what we're really excited about. But that's my show and I wrote it. So we're happy to jump into questions. If you guys want the smart back, then Amy can jump back in. But thank you for having us today.
Well, thank you, Saban. It's always so much fun to present with you and talk to you and hear you show all the great examples that Mnemonic has. We only could pick a few. I promise you all, there are so many more. So hopefully once we get started with auctions,
I'm mad.
Of working with Mnemonic. So bringing it all home and looking forward, bear with me. There's like 2 more slides to go, and then I'd love to jump into the chat and just talk about ways that we can hopefully set up some meetings to talk with you and go through more of this, because it is our bread and butter. We love to talk about this stuff and just talk to you all more about the reach, right? That's our magic word right next to data and branding today is reach. So getting your message in front of the audience that you are seeking. That's what we're here to do all day, every day. That brand awareness and branding goes hand in hand with the creative. You've got to have impactful creative. You've got to be intentional with the messaging that we're putting out there. Saban is here. We've got him on the phone, so please take advantage. And let's talk about ways that we can work together to get that impactful creative and your brand in front of new potential customers. That big top of the funnel is where we want to be. And that higher share of voice, again, it's going to help you differentiate. So when people are having that ad recall and remembering, oh, where was that plumbing service I heard about? I feel like I just saw that commercial. Standing out from the competition is so mission critical right now. And we can help you do that. So that's really the big 3 takeaways. targeting the right audience, you know, making sure that we are getting in front of those potential customers wherever they are watching, on any screen they are watching on. That is what we can do at Effective. Some other key things to just take away and think about as we're about to wrap up here is when we talk about reaching them wherever they are and whenever they're consuming, things like day parts and you know, trying to buy in some of the more terminology that we don't really use anymore at Effective. We want a broad mix of networks. We want to reach people at all times. You know, prime time for me is probably going to be a different hour and time of day for prime time as Saban, especially again now where we're all working in different ways and going forward in our days that aren't anything like they were at the beginning of this year, right? We can help you take the guesswork out of that and put together a really effective campaign utilizing TV and getting that reach and brand awareness out there. So don't focus on that bottom of the funnel. Let's work together to get that great creative, get that reach out there. And our commitment to you is that we're going to help you achieve your advertising goals. Our full range of capabilities, and we didn't even get into this, you know, working alongside with me and Saban, we've got an amazing advanced platform solutions team. Our data insights and innovation team is amazing. I think they're here in the chat as well. It's more than just us. We would love to schedule time to follow up with you all and talk about really impactful ways that we can maximize your budget and help you reach that advertising effectiveness. It's not lost on us. The effective in our name is definitely to lead you towards advertising effectiveness. That's the greatest way to think about us and our partnership and advertising solutions that we bring to the table. So I'm Amy, I'm signing off here. Saban is still here with us. I'm gonna turn it back over to Ray and Kay and Valentina. But thank you so much for having us today. We're excited to work with you and make 2020 a success. Please reach out to us. You can find our names, our email addresses, plenty of ways to reach us. And with that, I will turn it back over and stop sharing my screen here.
Thank you so much, you guys. That was amazing. And we do have some questions for you already. They've been popping in since you started. So we have here Stephanie asking, would the Peloton commercial backfire? Do you think it hurt their brand image?
It's a great question. All measures in terms of their sales and their presence in the market, it didn't. And part of why it didn't was their agility in recognizing where it hurt, and actually the second spot that came out from Aviation Gin that allowed them, I don't know if you all saw it, Ryan Reynolds fronted it. It was very smart, right? But being willing to leverage that and acknowledge a misstep actually sort of helped them, because it fed into their brand of self-improvement. That's their core value. That's what they're presenting you is, this is work, we'll do this work with you. Once they've made that brand promise, they can have a misstep. If there's a correction to that misstep and that acknowledgement, doubling down on it would have been an error. So the added exposure certainly didn't hurt them, right? There's non-dollar exposure there that they got out of it, but then they were able to go in and correct and retie it into their values.
We also have here a question. How long would you recommend to run a commercial?
So that's a good question that does not have one answer. It depends on what the commercial is about, what the campaign is speaking to. But, you know, if we're going to go more general, what we found is the life of a spot should be from about 3 to 6 months before you update it. And Amy, feel free to jump in and correct me again. But it'll be brand and offering specific, but that's generally a good rule of thumb to navigate by.
Well, you just answered the next one, which is how often to refresh creative. So 2 in 1. Perfect. We have
I'll
another
be here all week.
here from Tracy. With Xfinity X1 and others ramping up voice remote search capabilities, are you and or they providing an advertiser name search, which would return search results, including the most recent ads or portal pages?
Good question.
So within the actual X1 voice remote, can you say advertiser's name and get the search? Is that the question
I
correct?
think so. Tracy, let us know if that's not it, or if we are in the right direction with your question.
Today, we don't have that capability, but Tracy, and I can't see your name here, I'd love to talk with you more because we do have some solutions within that X1 portal for our advertisers. And I'd love to talk to you more about that. So today, there's no way that you can pull up that remote control and get that kind of search result. But we do have some partnership extensions that we can discuss. So definitely, I will follow up with you, Tracy. I'll find you and we can discuss that more.
Yeah, she has another question there. Motor Trend Channel is a favorite of hers for Xfinity X1. Pick 2 regular advertisers and program sponsors, Cooper Tires and RockAuto.com. She sees their ads every week without her providing any feedback, survey responses, or anything. Does your platform and analytic reports report to them automatically and include her information, or is it just something that because she was tuned in, then she gets the ad aired?
So I think I understand that question. And Tracy, first of all, thank you for the amount of insight you put into each of these. All of our data is anonymized. We're very careful about our user data. So nobody's getting actual addresses or names, right? As a company, we take those ethics very seriously. In terms of going back to our advertisers with demos that they're connecting with and stuff, yes, that's really important to them. That's important to them to be able to target and then adapt their messaging. So we do have those capabilities that we offer our advertisers.
We have another question from Alex Rojas here. He's asking, has it been harder to target Gen Z using TV? How have you adapted to still get a response from that group?
Great question, and thank you for that. We are targeting our advertisers to audiences. So when we think about audiences, you almost want to think about lifestyle habits and where people are. So while Gen Z might be an indicator of, a specific age range, there's millennials, there's Gen Xers, everything else, we're more interested in what those people are doing. So are they first-time home buyers or are they renters? Are they the kind of people that like to go to the zoo, if it's open right now, I think it is, and explore a little bit more outdoors in the city? Are they cooking, hopefully more successful than me in quarantine? So when we look at lifestyles and behavioral habits, that's how we're targeting you to your audience. So no, that hasn't been difficult. We use great data and insights to help come up with more lifestyle targets, because as we know, you might be in between certain things, right? Like you might be starting a family, you might be upsizing or downsizing your home. There's so many different things that happen along your life cycle. And so what we do is take that Comcast first party data, which is our set-top boxes. All of that is anonymized, and it helps us to determine lifestyles and lifestyle behaviors. So it hasn't been difficult to reach them. And again, would love to talk to you more about that. So please do follow up with us.
I do want to jump in a little here. And first of all, Alex, thank you for being here. I believe you're the graphic design student. And beyond reaching them, it's really important to think about their viewing habits, right? And we have that they're watching. Nobody's not watching content right now, or maybe ever again, right? We're consumers of content. And when we build those profiles for creatively speaking to them, we're watching what programs and channels they're watching. Now, this is really important for you to think about as well as a graphic designer, is there's different visual vernacular. There's different language that resonates within that group. There's different edit pacing that you need in those spots, right? All of those things are really important to think about, the same way when you think about color theory and apply that. And I'm getting into the weeds here a little. I apologize to the rest of the audience, but I'm excited Alex is here. Anytime students are engaged like that, that's the best. You've got to think about the demographic, not your impression or your stereotype of them, but what they're actually doing, where they're actually engaging, and learn from that, and then learn their language, right? And that's really important. And that's something we're really focused on doing.
We have one more question from Sandy. Can you only target a client's TV spots to homes with smart TVs or Comcast homes?
Across the DMA. So we can find them if they are streaming on their phones. We know that's a methodology that a lot of people are, or a way that a lot of people are streaming. So no, it does not matter. We have multiple different ways that we can reach your target audience on different screens. And that was a question from whom?
Sandy.
Sandy, I will follow up with you. I know we're running at the end of the meeting time, so let's please connect and talk more about our capabilities when it comes to multi-screen and reach. We'd love to chat with you more about that.
Thank you, guys. And speaking about connecting, we've had some people ask for your contact information in the chat. So make sure that you also use this as a networking opportunity. Send your info there. We'll be sending a newsletter, our AAF Houston newsletter, with a link to the replay, and of course, how to connect with the Effective team and how to move forward with any of the wonderful conversations that we've had today. So if there are no more questions, Ray, take it away.
You got it. Thanks, Valentina, and thanks to Amy and Saban as well. What a great presentation! And I know you've caught the interest of other clubs around the District 10, which is really kind of cool. So you're going to be doing a repeat performance. Just remember what you did and do it the same way. All right. The online auction is on live right now. As a matter of fact, raise funds for scholarships and support of all of our AAF Houston programs and events for the upcoming year. Bid 2020 goodbye, and one of those online auction items is from Effective. It's a creative audit. You can go there now and start bidding on that to help support scholarship, educational initiatives, and more. It runs right now through October the 1st, so please go there and bid. We are counting on your support and participation. Student Conference is coming up. It's going digital this year. What isn't going digital, right? It's an advertising competition for students in advertising, marketing, communications, design-related fields to experience what it's like to work in our industry with a real brief and a client. It's coming up in November the 5th through the 7th, by the way. It will be virtual. There is a cost to be a part of that, and you go to the website and you find out more about that. The American Advertising Awards, yes, are coming up sooner than you expect. And as a result, we want you to now start thinking about what you're going to be submitting for your creative to win one of those things we call an Addy. Everybody wants to win an Addy. So find out now, investigate, start planning, and get engaged. This will be a virtual event coming up in 2021 as well, but it's going to be one of the best you've ever attended. And now's a great time to become a member of the American Advertising Federation Houston. AAF-Houston.net is the website to go to, and you can sign up there. It's an incredible value, whether you're a single or a group. Please take the advantage of doing that. We've got our AAFH e-newsletter, a great way to keep up with everything we do here in Houston. Again, you can sign up for that free newsletter at AAF-Houston.net. The final thing, as I mentioned, the podcast release that we did with Effective is being released at 7 a.m. on the 18th. And they'll be on the radio program on KPRC 950 AM iHeartMedia Sunday morning at 10 a.m. And that's a global thing, so you can just grab onto the iHeart app and go find that. The Ad Speaks Houston is the name of the podcast. It's an Addy Award-winning podcast to the American Ad Federation, engaging conversations about how the club reaches a broad base of multicultural creatives and marketing professionals. And it takes you behind the scenes with the people and programs that make American Advertising Federation Houston one of the top ad clubs in the country. Thanks again to Effective for our presentation today, for being a part of this, our podcast, and then the things in the future. Also thank our sponsors for today as well. You know, Bunker 58, K Krennic Creative, Radio Lounge, thank you. You're welcome. And we hope you had a good time. I see we've still got 44 people hanging in there. So what I want you to do, if you're not a member of the American Ad Federation Houston, go immediately to AAF-Houston.net and sign up today. And think about all the other cool things you can be doing as a participant with American Ad Federation Houston. Don't forget about the auction going on through October the 1st. And go be safe. Go have a great rest of the week and a great weekend as well. And Amy and Saban, thank you again for being a part of today's program.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Great job, everyone. Thank y'all so much for attending and presenting this fabulous information. And just to the members out there, we are looking for volunteers to help with student conference and also the American Advertising Awards. So watch your inbox and we'll be reaching out. And anybody that is already wants to jump on board, y'all reach out to us. We look forward to it. And then there'll also be a follow-up on how to reach out to Effective and to get more information as you ask for. So
one last thing, this will be available for replay. I forgot to mention that. If you want to share this webinar today, this is going to be available for replay, and I believe Valentina will make that link available to you if you would like to share it with someone who wasn't able to attend today. That's an important part too as well. That's all.
thank you,
everybody.
everyone.
Have a great rest of your day.
Bye.
Thanks, guys. Be great.